Narayan Narayan. Chapter 1. Once Shonk and 88,000 other rishi assembled at the forest named Shanya. They asked Maharshi Suji, the narrator of Purans, "O Maharshi, please tell us how mankind can attain salvation." Maharshi Suji answered, "Once Narad Muni asked Lord Vishnu the same question. I will tell you what Lord Vishnu told Narad, so listen carefully. Once Narad, during one of his travels to various worlds, came to earth. There he saw the people suffering as a result of their past deeds. To reduce their suffering and bring them salvation, Narad went to Vishnu Lok. There he found Lord Vishnu decorated with Shankh, Chakra, Gada and lotus in his 4 hands and garland around his neck. Narad spoke humbly, "O Supreme Lord, the Savior of the poor, I surrender at your feet." Lord Vishnu asked, "Narad, why have you come here? Tell me what you want and I will fulfill your wishes." Narad replied, "O Bhagwan, people on earth are suffering in many ways as a result of their own past sinful deeds. Kindly reveal to me a way to help them." Lord Vishnu replied, "O Narad, mankind can get rid itself of all sorrows by performing a puja called Satyanarayan Puja. When performed properly, this puja will bring happiness, peace of mind and wealth in this life and salvation beyond." On hearing this, Narad was filled with joy and addressed Lord Vishnu. "O Lord, please tell me the details of the puja that you just mentioned. When should we perform it, how to perform it, and who has performed it before?" Lord Vishnu answered, "This puja can be performed any day, especially can be done on the full moon day. One must gather his friends, relatives, and perform the puja with devotion. He should offer fruits, ghee, milk, curd, butter, wheat flour, sugar, and honey to the god. After the puja is over, he must read the Satyanarayan Katha and distribute prasad to everybody. When performed in this manner, this puja will bring fulfillment of one's wishes. Particularly in Kali Yuga, this puja brings contentment." Om Narayan Narayan. Chapter 2. Maharshi Suji continued addressing the assembled rishis. "O rishis, I will tell you about people who performed the Satyanarayan Puja in the past. Once there lived a very poor Brahmin in beautiful city of Kashi. He did not have food to eat. He used to wander in search of food every day. Lord Vishnu took the form of an old man, appeared before the poor Brahmin and asked, 'Friend, why are you wandering aimlessly?' The poor Brahmin replied, 'Sir, I am a very poor man, unable to bear the hunger. I beg for your mercy. Can you please show me a way out of this misery?' Lord Vishnu, who was in form of the old man, replied, 'O Brahmin, Lord Satyanarayan grants his devotees wishes and removes their sorrows. So you should perform his puja and reap its benefits.' Lord Vishnu then explained the details of Satyanarayan Vrat to the poor Brahmin and disappeared. The poor Brahmin immediately decided to perform the puja. After a sleepless night, he got up early in the morning and went to beg for alms. His mind was fixed on only one thing. It was the puja. That day he got a lot of money. He bought fruits, milk, curd, and honey. He performed the puja with his relatives and friends. With Lord Satyanarayan's grace, he shed his poverty and lived a content life. Every month on the full moon day, he performed the puja and finally attained moksha. In this manner, Maharshi Suji explained the significance of Satyanarayan Puja. The rishis again addressed Maharshi Suji, "O the Great One, please tell us about others who performed the puja." Maharshi Suji continued, "One day when the Brahmin was observing the Satyanarayan Vrat, a woodcutter entered his house and asked for water. He noticed the Brahmin was performing a puja. He asked what the puja was and what good it would bring. The Brahmin replied, "This is called Satyanarayan Vrat. Anyone who observes this vrat will get all riches. I have been bestowed with prosperity." The woodcutter was delighted to hear this. He learned the proper way to perform the puja. He also took the prasad that was offered and went his way. With Lord Satyanarayan in his mind, the woodcutter decided that he would observe the vrat with whatever he was going to make by selling firewood that day. He went to the part of the city where rich people lived. He sold firewood and made twice the normal profit. Pleased with his luck, he bought bananas, sugar, ghee, milk, curd, honey, and wheat flour. He invited his friends and relatives and performed the Satyanarayan Puja. By Lord Narayan's grace, he acquired enormous wealth and lived comfortably and attained the moksha. Narayan, Narayan. Chapter 3. Maharishi Suji continued, "O Rishis, I will now tell you another story. In the olden days, there lived a wise king by the name Ulkamuk. He had mastered all his senses and always spoke truth. He used to go to the temple every day and gave gifts to Brahmin. His lotus-faced wife was a pure and pious woman. One day, the royal couple was performing the Satyanarayan Puja on the banks of the river Bhadrashila. At that time, a merchant called Sadhu sailed by. He saw the king perform some puja and stopped his boat. He got off and addressed the king humbly. 'O king, would you kindly tell me what you are doing with such devotion and concentration?' The king replied, 'O Sadhu, I have no children. I am worshipping the Almighty Lord Satyanarayan so that I may be blessed with the children.' On hearing this, Sadhu spoke humbly. 'O king, please tell me how to perform the puja. I would like to observe the vrat as I too have no children.' The king told him all the details. Sadhu returned home with a great joy, told his wife about Satyanarayan Puja. Then they decided to perform the puja after the child was born. Then by divine grace, Sadhu's wife Leelavati gave birth to a beautiful daughter. They named the child Kalavati. One day, Leelavati reminded her husband of his promise to perform puja. Sadhu told his wife that he would do the puja at the time of his daughter's wedding and got busy with his work. In the meantime, Kalavati grew up into a lovely girl. Sadhu sent out a messenger to find a suitable bridegroom for his daughter. One of his messengers found a good-natured and handsome boy in Vaishya family from Kanchannagar. Sadhu found the boy to be suitable match for Kalavati and celebrated his daughter's wedding in a grand manner. But Sadhu completely forgot about the Satyanarayan Puja and angered Lord Satyanarayan. Lord Satyanarayan placed a curse on Sadhu. One day, Sadhu went on a business trip with his son-in-law. He stopped to trade at Ratnapur, which was ruled by King Chandraketu. At that time, some thieves robbed the king's treasury and were running away. The king's soldier chased them. The frightened thieves threw all valuables they had robbed near Sadhu and escaped. Finding the king's treasure near Sadhu and his son-in-law, the king's soldier arrested them and brought them into the king. The king ordered them to be chained and thrown into the prison. Because of Lord Narayan's Maya, nobody even listened to what Sadhu had to say in his defense. King Chandraketu also took all their merchandise. Sadhu's wife was also affected by Lord Narayan's curse. Some robbers broke into her house and robbed everything. One day, Sadhu's daughter Kalavati was very hungry and went out in search of food. She wandered here and there and stopped at the house where Satyanarayan Puja was being performed. She stayed at that place until the puja was over and took the prasad that was offered. When she reached home, it was late night. Leelavati asked her where she had been. Kalavati told her mother that she was listening to Satyanarayan Katha in somebody's house. Then Leelavati remembered her husband's promise to perform the puja. She decided to observe Satyanarayana Vrat herself. She invited all her relatives and friends and prayed to Lord Satyanarayana to forgive their sins. Lord Satyanarayana was pleased with Leelavati's prayer. Lord Satyanarayana appeared in King Chandraketu's dream. He ordered the king to release the two merchants from prison as they were not the real thieves. Lord Narayan warned the king that his kingdom, children would all be destroyed if he failed to release Sadhu and his son-in-law. Next morning, the king told his counselor about his dream. He ordered Sadhu and his son-in-law to be brought before him. Sadhu and son-in-law were frightened and stood before the king with bowed heads. The king talked to them gently and said, "You too have suffered a great deal because of your fate, but there is nothing to fear." The king returned their merchandise, gave them new clothes and lots of gifts, and sent them home. Narayan, Narayan. Chapter 4. Sadhu and son-in-law loaded their boat with the riches given to them by the king and sailed homeward. Lord Satyanarayan wanted to test Sadhu further. He took the form of sage with a trident. He appeared before Sadhu and asked him what he was carrying in his boat. Sadhu did not realize that the sage was indeed Lord Narayan in disguise. He laughed mockingly and said, "You Brahmin, were you thinking of stealing my things? We do not have any valuables in the boat except empty vessels." The sage replied, "O Sadhu, so be it." The sage then departed and stood by the seashore. Sadhu was horrified when he went into his boat. He saw that boat was filled with empty vessels, just as he had falsely told the sage. Sadhu fainted seeing that. He was revived by his son-in-law. Son-in-law said, "This must be the curse of the sage. Let's go him and ask his forgiveness." The two merchants then went to seashore where the sage was meditating. They fell at his feet and repeatedly begged for his forgiveness. Pleased by Sadhu's devotion, the sage said, "Sadhu, do not weep. You suffer because you have broken your promise many times." On hearing this, Sadhu realized that sage was Lord Narayana and said, "O Lord, even Brahma and other devas cannot understand your form completely. With my limited knowledge, how can I? Please show me your true form and bless me." Upon hearing his prayer, God was pleased and granted his wishes, restoring his merchandise in the boat and disappeared. The two merchants then joyfully sailed homeward. On reaching their hometown, they sent a message to their wives about their safe arrival. At that time, Leelavati and Kalavati were performing Satyanarayan Puja. Leelavati quickly finished the puja and asked her daughter to do so. She then hurried to the seashore to meet her husband. Kalavati was eager to meet her husband too. She forgot to take the prasad and rushed to the seashore. This angered Lord Satyanarayan. His Maya caused the ship and her husband to disappear in the sea. Not finding her husband, Kalavati started weeping. Everyone was wonderstruck and frightened. Sadhu did not know what to do. Thinking that it was Lord Narayan's Maya, he announced that he would perform Satyanarayan Puja and pray to the Lord. Lord Satyanarayan was very pleased with Sadhu's devotion and said, "O Sadhu, your daughter did not take the prasad in the hurry to see her husband, so I made him and the boat disappear. Let her go home, take the prasad and return." On hearing this, Kalamati went home and took the prasad respectfully. When she returned to seashore, she found her husband and the boat to be safe. Then Sadhu returned home happily. He performed the Satyanarayan Puja every full moon day with his relatives and friends. With God's grace, he enjoyed all the comfort in this world and finally attained moksha. Narayan, Narayan. Chapter 5. Maharshi Suji continued, let me tell you another story of king named Tungdhwaj who suffered a lot after refusing the Satyanarayan Prasad. One day after hunting, the king was resting under a shady tree. Some cowherds were happily performing Satyanarayan Puja nearby. The king refused to prasad offered by cowherds. When he reached his palace, he found that his kingdom, his 100 sons, his wealth, his everything is vanished. Then it occurred to him that Lord Satyanarayan was probably angry with him. He went back to cowherds, prayed to Lord Satyanarayan, performed the puja with great devotion. Lord Satyanarayan showered his blessing, and the king regained everything he had lost earlier. He lived happily and ultimately reached Vankut. Maharshi Suji said, O holy man, I have narrated you the Satyanarayan Katha which was originally told by Lord Vishnu to Narad Muni. By observing this vrat, mankind can attain salvation. In this Kali-yuga, observance of the vrat can lead to fulfillment of one's wishes. This ended the narration of Maharshi Suji, after which Shank and other rishis returned to their respective places. Narayan, Narayan. Jai Shri Krishna.